let's get started. Would you tell us your story?
Let me see. 3 years ago, I was noticing that I was having severe headaches and some ringing in my ear, lots and lots of dizziness, brain fog. My gait was off. My sense of depth was off. Like I'd reached for something that I thought was there and it was further out. Um, and my blurred vision. I went from seeing to, gosh, I could hardly make out a face, you know? And so on one occasion, I had a headache that was really bad. And I went to my doctors and, they gave me some, what is it, meclizine for vertigo. And I was like, I still have these headaches. They're not going away. What is happening? And she said, we're not sure. It sounds like you have vertigo. And I was like, okay. So she goes, well, just try it out and see. So I did. And then I was at work in the morning and I had to sit down because my head was hurting so bad. It felt like someone was just trying to crush my head. And I said, I got to go home. And I was driving and I only lived like a couple of blocks from where I work. And I was like, well, I can drive. I could barely walk out of the building and I'm thinking I could drive. So I'm staggering to my car and I pull up my phone and I ask a friend, can you just come get me? Because I don't think I can drive. So I went home, called my doctor. The next day, she gave me an appointment. I went in, and that's when I went in, and it was so bright in her office. Well, it wasn't like it was normal lights, but they were extremely bright to me. So I asked her to turn the lights down, and I was telling her what was going on, and she says, "Well, I'm gonna order an MRI for brain lesions." I said, "Oh, okay, okay, well, you know." So it comes back like a couple days later, and she goes, "You have a condition that you were probably born with, and it's called Chiari malformation type 1." I was like, "What the hell is that? What is that?" And she said, "Your cerebral tonsils." I said, "Tonsils? What do you mean? Tonsils like in your throat tonsils?" I didn't understand all this medical lingo. And she says, "No, Janelle, it is where in layman's term, is where your brain is too big for your skull and your cerebellar brain moves down into the magna force. I forget what it's called. And
Career Magnum.
yeah, foramen magnum, and it blocks your spinal fluid flow." I was like, oh man, that sounds pretty serious. What is happening? And the first thing she told me is, do not Google it. Of course, you go home and Google it. So the first thing I did. So I'm looking at this and I'm getting more and more afraid. And I call a friend, I'm panicking. I said, oh my God, I'm going to die. I'm going to die. I have to have brain surgery. To cure this, you have to have brain surgery. And she's like, calm down. Can't be that bad. I said, no, it is. It is. My brain is in my neck. I said, it is. I was in total panic mode. So I started researching doctors who specialized in this. And then talking to people, I ran into a nurse who told me she works in the OR, and we were just talking. And I told her about this condition. She said her son had it, but he didn't need the surgery. I was like,
Mhm.
oh, and then she told me about the doctor that I was researching. And I said, okay. So I reached out to him. I didn't get an appointment for like 2 months. And then when I did get an appointment and he did my assessment, he said, well, you have this, but it doesn't seem to be interfering with your life. And so we're just going to watch it. Okay. So when that happens, I'm still having all of these symptoms. So my doctor refers me to a neurologist. And this neurologist, and I'm telling her what's going on. And so she orders a head to toe from my brain down to my tailbone, basically MRIs and CTs. So I had that. When they did the CT, they said that my fluid was flowing fairly well, but that I had all of these other conditions that they said were associated with my spine. I didn't have what do you call that singular? What's it called? This,
The Syrinx,
yeah,
like
I
the
didn't have that.
fibromyalgia.
Yeah, I didn't have that, but I did have Chiari. But she said that my thoracic spine was almost closed. and they said that it could possibly be from the Chiari. So I was
Mhm.
having the head pain, the neck pain, but I didn't have the pain in my thoracic. I didn't even know that was an issue, but I was having severe lower back pain. So when it comes back, so all of a sudden I went from having the neurosurgeon for my brain for the Chiari to having a neurospine surgeon. So he comes and tells me, well, we think that you need to have the surgery soon. So they bumped it from waiting a year to having it done in July. I have the surgery, and when they go in, um, they found that my Chiari, so both sides were not down. My right side was down compared to the left side, and my right side was the side that was damaged. So they ended up cauterizing it and and repairing that side. The left side, they said, had some issues, but nothing compared to the right, and they were not worried about it. So what they did was when they went in, apparently my muscles and tendons that protect the back of my head were so tight that the surgery that was routine surgery that was supposed to last, what, 2 hours, 3 hours, ended up being 5 and 6 hours because
Mhm.
they couldn't open up the area to get to my brain. And once
Right.
they did, that's when they found all the problems. And then they did a dermoplasty. So they took that part. And you know what's interesting? I can still feel where they took it from. It's like a dip.
Yeah. That's
Yeah, I can still feel
I
that.
don't want to say that's cool, but that's kind of cool. Like to
I'm like,
be able
yeah,
to
I can,
know where they took it from and stuff,
oh
that's
yeah,
kind of neat.
I can feel where they took it from. So, and then when they took that, they said, wow, that's interesting because yours was really thick, which is unusual. And I'm like, okay. So they ended up putting it on. They ended up taking out more of my skull than expected because when they opened it up, the calcification had started coming from my skull into my brain. So they had to remove that part. So I ended up going into the ICU. I was there a day, and then they decided to tell me that I had COVID and sent me home.
Ooh, that does
I
not
had
sound like a good mix.
Now, mind you, before I went in, I had isolated, I had taken a COVID test, all that, had no signs or symptoms of COVID, none.
Right.
I go into the ICU. I'm there a day. They said, "Oh, you got to go home." They sent me home with no medication other than the medication they were giving me in the hospital, which was only like a day's worth.
Hmm.
I had COVID, they said, so I couldn't go to an ER and get treatment. So I'm trying to track down, this is a weekend, so I'm trying to track down medication. I'm in great pain. And and so when I finally reach my doctor and tell him, and he's like, "Oh, I'm so sorry to hear that, you know. Well, how are you doing now?" He did not sound concerned. I mean, mind you, he was a great surgeon. He did really good with me when I had the surgery, but it was like once I feel like with surgeons, once they well, this surgeon in particular, once he did the surgery, it was done. His PA even told me that I was cured of Chiari because I had the surgery. It's like,
I
no,
think I think that stems from when you're not going and seeing a specialist. Um, it's not, well, the surgeons know how to do the technical part and they know how to do the surgery. They
right,
may not necessarily fully understand all the parts of it and what goes into
right,
it because Chiari is a like progressive thing. I mean, there's not really a cure, quote unquote, but
no,
I mean, yeah, you can relatively fix it to where you're not having the herniation anymore, but that doesn't mean all your symptoms are going to go away. Some may
no,
improve, some may not. You know, I've been
no,
told multiple times by surgeons that they just don't fully know everything that they need to know yet. So it's not a very, cut and dry kind of thing.
right. So I'm learning that. So then I went home, and then from there they addressed the back part, which was 3 months after I had the brain surgery. I had back surgery, and with that one was really difficult. I almost was in a wheelchair. I lost sensation completely in my lower half, like 5 times during the surgery when they were trying to remove the pressure off the spine. And then from that, I was numb across my breast. because of the way they had me positioned. So
Hmm.
across my breast and in my genitalia, completely numb, no sensation, couldn't feel nothing. And that just, now mind you, this surgery was almost 2 years ago. Things are starting, sensations and feeling are starting to come back now, you know. And in telling them, hey, this is happening. Why? Oh, I don't understand. We didn't touch that area. I don't know why that's numb. And maybe it's because of the positioning. And so, it's frustrating because it's like you said, they're good in their technical, but they don't under once they get out of that technical field, it's like, I don't know. I don't know. Talk to your neurologist. But the problem is here, I haven't found a neurologist. I haven't been like I've seen where people have yearly checkups and yearly MRIs. I haven't had one.
Hmm.
And I haven't had a neurologist here in Seattle who even knows what Chiari is. I mean, knows what it's about, how to study it, what's going, no, nothing, nothing. And I'm like, well, so I'm just kind of winging it on my own. I just kind of, okay, there are days when I am feeling okay. I've noticed that sometimes my headaches are coming back, and now they're telling me, oh, you don't have Chiari headaches, you have migraines. I'm like,
Well,
no, this is different.
yeah, the thing that I've learned is that when you have the decompression and you start to feel a little bit better and then it comes back and almost with like a vengeance, it's because there's like a underlying cause. So it seems that a lot of surgeons just assume that you're born with the Chiari.
Yeah.
But it from all the people that I've spoken to, all the doctors that I've spoken to, it seems like when that happens, you get better for a short amount of time and then it comes back. It's because you've got something maybe like a connective tissue disorder or like hydrocephalus or something else that had caused the Chiari. But when you got the imaging, that's what they saw. So it seems like it's almost like going down a list and checking things off. Is this taken care of? Yes. Okay, let's find the next thing. And it seems like when you have that decompression, it's kind of just like, well, we're done. We did our job.
That's that. No, not seems like it is.
Yeah.
Here, what I've noticed it is. And then I've heard of people who are fantastic. They swear by it. They're great. Like I said, I think he did a great job as far as opening up so the fluid can go back and forth. That was great. But the symptoms are still there. I mean, I'm still off balance. I even had this extensive ear test done because they were sure that it was coming, my balance was coming from my ears. And no, my off balance was coming from my cerebellum. It's not coming from my ear. So, and I'm like, well, how do you fix that?
Right.
Oh, well, we can do PT. They got
So
PT for
did any
everything.
of your symptoms get better after decompression?
Right like a week or so, I had clear vision. Oh my God. I could see like I couldn't see before for like 2 weeks. Could see amazing. The headaches went away. Everything was just feeling wonderful. I even walked better. And then slowly things just kind of went back. My vision is there are days when I'm really good. Other days you could be standing, I would say maybe 12 feet away from me, and I could not make your face out. I could not make your face. I know just the outline and your body type and your voice of who you are, but if you
Right.
didn't speak to me, I could not make your face out. And there's other days where I see you clearly. Some days my body hurts so bad I can't get out of bed. I've noticed that, when you go to the bathroom and you bear down, that pressure is in your head. I'm starting to get that back. Not as often, not every day, but starting to get it back. Um, so I don't know. I feel like if I were to call my neurosurgeon and say, hey, I'm having some symptoms or I'm feeling this way, they'd be like, Janelle, we fixed it. But you fixed the right side. You didn't say, I didn't even know that one side can come down and the other side couldn't.
Yeah, yeah, you can get that uneven, but they're finding in the studies that it doesn't necessarily make much of a difference. Like if you've
Hmm.
got one that's like in the proper positioning or higher up, and then they shrink one of the other ones, the secondary one, um, it like evens it out, but at the same
Okay.
time, they're finding that like the thickness or the movement of the tonsils, because when you look at an MRI, it's stationary. They, as MRIs have advanced, they now can like take the imaging of the tonsils as they contract and move and what.
Oh, okay.
So, well, that's one of the things that it's like the technology is growing, but the research needs to catch up with it. And
Yeah.
it's, I would definitely say if you're going to go back to your surgeon, um, have them look for like an underlying cause. Because while your tonsils aren't herniated anymore, there could be something else that's causing that. And a lot of people don't realize that.
Mm, okay. Because I've just during that time, it's like my whole body just fell apart. I
Hmm.
was having like I have a condition in my feet called plantar mitosis, which is another rare one, which is where you get these nodules. You know how your big toe tendon connects when you arch your foot, how that tendon sticks out in
Right,
your big toe?
right.
So I have these big, huge nodules that are on the tendon of my big toe,
Mhm.
and they're very painful. No surgery will help it. They'll just come back with a vengeance. They'll come back worse than what you had. So you don't do surgery. So I have to get these like steroid shots in my feet once a year. But that's a rare condition. Nobody in my family has it. Nobody. And I'm like, okay, that's so I had that happen. And then I had the Chiari, and then I had the back issues. And I mean, everything just like opened up all at once. And I'm like, what is happening here?
I mean, they
You know?
do say when it rains, it pours, right?
Oh my gosh. It was like, what is happening? It's like everything that could go wrong with my body. I gained 80 pounds, 80 pounds. And I'm like, what's happening? It was like your body's been through so much trauma, it's protecting
Hmm.
itself, and that's why you're gaining all this weight. And then I went through a really bad depression. Um, I wouldn't go outside. I didn't, everything hurt. If I got up, if I sat down, if I moved, if I didn't move, it all was just painful. So I couldn't recognize who I was physically. And I went from being a fairly confident person to someone who just became I'm already introverted, but more so than I was.
Right. It's almost like when you get sick, you kind of lose yourself in that because it
Yeah,
takes so much energy just to function in the day to day.
yeah. And then they had me on all this medication. And I was like, they had me on gabapentin. And at first that gave me really bad headaches. I couldn't even take that. And then they put me on pregabalin. So I was taking gabapentin and pregabalin at the same time.
I
And
know gabapentin can, one of the side effects cause rapid weight gain as well. And like depression's associated it or what and whatnot.
well, that is what happened. That's definitely what happened. So I'm not
So
on that. Huh?
go ahead. Go
I'm
ahead.
not on that anymore. I'm on the pregabalin as needed.
Hmm.
So which is really nice because before was having to take it like first it was like 3 times a day, and then it was 2 times a day, and now it's as needed. So yeah, I think now I am what 22. I'm almost 3 years out, and I feel like I'm starting to um just find myself again. I'm having some other issues, and I don't know how much of this is related
Hmm.
to Chiari. Like in the area where they had me bound for the surgery, both the back and the head surgery, I guess, but more of the back surgery. Um, I am finding that I have severe pain there now, and I found lumps there. So I'm like, okay, what is this? Because all of this stuff wasn't there 3 years ago.
Right.
You know, all of this. I didn't have any of this 3 years ago. And I always went to the doctors. I had my yearly checkup. None of this stuff showed up, and then all of a sudden, and I'm like, how could I have Chiari all my life? And I've had 4 kids, you know?
Right, right. And I think that's one of the things where the like definitely the research isn't there because they kind of just assume if they're not specialists. I've noticed that the surgeons just assume that it's something that you're born with. And I think that the majority of people actually have secondary Chiaris. I
Mm.
And like
When you
talking to
talk,
more and more people, it sounds like something else caused the Chiari. And then when they're looking for it, it's the main like pop out at you, like, haha, this is it. But once they
yeah.
fix that, it gets a little bit better and then it comes back.
So something is still happening.
Mhm.
I don't,
So
that's the problem. I don't know who to, go ahead, go ahead, go ahead.
uh, go ahead and finish that because I was just gonna ask a different question.
I said I don't know who to talk to here. I mean, UW, University of Washington is a teaching hospital, and I couldn't find a neurologist who was familiar with Chiari. And if I keep looking up, it takes me back to the neurosurgeon. There is no team of players who, once you've been diagnosed, you should have like an OT, a PT, a therapist, a neurologist. You should have a team on that side that can work with you to kind of help you through it because you're kind of left in the wind after the
Mhm.
surgery. Everyone just kind of walks away and goes, "Okay, you're fine now," and you're not. But if you don't have the background or the wherewithal to do the research, then you don't know what to do.
Right. And I
Yeah.
think I think that's where the advocacy comes in, not only like self advocacy, but also like the more that we can get this out so that people understand how like the day-to-day lives are, like
Hmm.
the better it's going to be in the future. I know WashU, I know they have a research center out there for Chiari.
When?
Uh,
University of Washington?
yeah, yeah. I have the information somewhere. I'll send it to you.
Okay. Yeah, that's Eastern Washington.
Yeah, but I know
University,
they're
is it
doing research
Washington
out there.
State or University of Washington?
What was that?
Is it University of Washington or Washington State?
I'd have to check into that because
Okay.
I know that it's in Washington and I believe it's WashU.
Okay.
Um, but I know they're doing not only are they doing research on it, they're also doing like genetic research as well for it.
Oh, no, not a word. So the doctor that I went to, he is known in this area, I guess, in Chiari world, um about research because he's done a lot, but he's also known for doing pediatric Chiari.
Mhm.
So he works a lot with children, more so than adults.
Right.
So he may have more research in that area, but I haven't found I don't know. When I asked him that he did he know of a neurologist who specializes in Chiari, he said, I don't know. I don't know of one. So that's kind of a struggle that I've come across. And in trying to talk to people here, there aren't many people here who just talk about it. They just don't, you know, or there's no one reaching. I met one person who lives way up north. That's like 45 minutes away. Because I was thinking about trying, how you do the Chiari walk in September. I was thinking maybe we can do something together, get people together, and nothing. There's just not a lot of people that even, most of the people are down south or back east.
Right. I've noticed that as well. I've noticed that
Yeah,
as well. Or like very sporadic large cities will have a handful of people, and it
yeah,
seems like everybody will kind of pick a place that's relatively close and then like fly out there or drive out there, you know. So there's
yeah,
not really like a connectivity of everybody.
right.
And that's actually
And
one of the things that I'm trying to do with Crazy by Chiari as
yeah,
well.
we need to have that connection with each other to
Yeah,
know
I
that
think
we're not.
the community aspect is very important.
Yeah. So, go ahead with your next question.
I was going to ask, do you know how many millimeters you were herniated
10.
in? Ooh, that's actually quite a bit.
Mm,
Do you know when they did your decompression, did they do a laminectomy? And if they
yes,
did they go down to just C1 or C2?
C1.
C1. Let's see. Um, Before your diagnosis, when you first started noticing like the little things, because I know there's always that big event that causes you to go and get diagnosed. But like when you take a look back, what was your life like leading up to that? Like what were the symptoms and as it gradually progressed to that point that caused you to go in and actually go, there's something wrong?
My dizziness and my brain fog. And
Would
then it was the headaches, but I've always had headaches. So I kind of, pushed those aside. I mean, I've always had some, and it was funny because I had a friend tell me, Janelle, I've known you for years. You've always had headaches like this. And I was like, huh, okay. Because that's just so normal for me,
right,
you know.
right.
But the brain fog and the dizziness was not. I would get up and the room would spin. And I'm like, whoa, okay, what's happening? When it threw me off. And then I said, okay. When I went to the doctors, they said vertigo. And I was like, oh, okay, I can understand that. And then when I started having the brain fog where I could not remember just mid sentence conversations, or if I try to say a word, it will come out weird, or if
Right.
you're texting something and you don't proof it, girl, it looked like I was talking a foreign language.
And I know before we had started recording, you had mentioned it was like dementia.
Yeah, I could not. And it scared me because I was like, dang, I'm only 56. I was like, there's no way. What is happening here? And my kids would kind of joke, oh, mom, you just. And I was like, okay. And then I remember being around my mom and I was looking at her and I was like, Jesus Christ, I'm sounding like her because she had early onset. She had dementia. She was 80
Mhm.
something years old. So I was like, there's no way I could have this. And then it just worried me and worried me. And then I would be at work and I could have a conversation with my friends and I would bring the conversation up again like we didn't have it.
Mhm.
They would look at me like, what's wrong with you? I'm like, what are you talking about? Janelle, you just asked me that question. They'd be like, you just asked me that question. I'm like, I did?
I
It
completely
was,
understand that.
yeah.
My sister-in-law, she always tells me, she's like, you love telling the same story over and over and over again. And I'm like, I can't, broken brain.
I don't quite remember that I told it before. Yeah, it was that kind of stuff. And then I just kind of pulled it all together when that headache hit me really bad. And that kind of scared me because it was a headache and the dizziness at the same time. And that's never happened.
Right. So would you say that was like the most concerning to you?
Yeah.
Yeah. I know one of the things that the neurologist and the surgeon and everybody looks at is the headaches. They say, well, that's the primary symptom, so that's what we're looking for. And the more that I'm meeting people and talking to them, nobody really cares about the headaches. The headaches is something like, oh, we can just push that aside. Like it's a constant thing. That's not what's concerning because you can deal with a headache. You get used to that and then that becomes your
Yeah.
new normal.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's another thing that needs to be looked at because that seems to be their gold standard in a way. Like if you don't have the proper headache, it may not be connected, but
Right.
I believe that it's more than just the Chiari headaches.
And then I was having a lot of neck pain, like a lot of, and I don't get neck pain. I was getting neck pain. It would come, the headaches would start from like my neck and just circle around and just ride my head. And behind my eyes would hurt so bad that they feel like they were going to pop out. I would
Hmm.
get really bad, like eye pain headaches. And I was like, well, this is odd. What is happening? I don't get headaches like that. Um, I would get headaches, but I always associated them with, okay, maybe you have migraines. Because my two boys both had migraines from the time they were 6
Hmm.
until present, you know. And so I was thinking, well, maybe they got that from me, or maybe I just had migraines. Because I just, why would you think otherwise, right? So that became my norm. I didn't, I have a headache. I'm going to go in my room. I'm going to turn off the lights. I'm going to chill until it goes away, take some ibuprofen, and I'll be good. But when
Hmm.
I was taking ibuprofen, I'm taking 1,000 plus milligrams. and it wasn't doing nothing.
So an interesting thing that I was told by a couple neurologists, even the ones that didn't necessarily understand the Chiari, um, one of the things that they had told me was when you have a headache and medication isn't working, it's not something that can be helped by medication. It's a surgical issue. And that's one of the things that I think is the reason that the surgeons and whatnot look for that. Because, I mean, if it's a surgical issue, they're surgeons. That's what they're looking for. And that's one of the problems that I feel like they need to kind of reevaluate.
Oh, another thing, when I would get these headaches, my head, you couldn't touch my head. It became ultra sensitive. I couldn't touch my head. I couldn't, it was just don't touch my head. It hurt.
Mhm.
It would hurt to touch my head. And that's never happened before either prior to it.
Like a
And
lot of
sometimes
pressure.
sometimes I still get those headaches. But I have this really cool cold beanie. Amazing. Amazing for headaches. I
Does
love
it
it.
almost feel like almost like a burning sensation sometimes?
Hmm.
Yes.
Hmm.
Yeah. And do you
Burning
ever
and
get like localized, like certain spots, like a like
yeah,
one is
mine's
more.
is here. Mine's is here. My headache, I mean, I would feel it everywhere else, but the primary, like right where they took out the derma, the dura, my head is right here. And it goes back down my head into my eyes and up and around. And it's just, it's a constant, it feels like a constant movement of pain, just circulating up and down. And, when it gets really bad, it goes down my spine into my body when it gets really bad. And I
Does
was
it,
telling my, hmm?
I was gonna say, does your spine ever go numb? Like almost like a tingling, like numbness?
In my thoracic area, it does, still does. Yes, it still does. Like if I go to, take a brush to wash my back, I get this numbness that goes like this. It just shoots from the center and out. And it's the weirdest thing. And I try to explain that to and then sometimes if it's really bad, it'll go like that and it'll go down and come back up. And so when I tried to explain that to my pain doctor, he goes, well, that's interesting because your neurons never go down and come back up. I said, well, something is making that pain. He goes, well, that could be something no, it's not in my head.
I have a slight theory that it's less of a, because they describe Chiari as like a container and contents problem, right? Like either your brain's too big or your skull's too small, so there's not enough room, right? And I think, well, yes, that's a large part of it, like maybe the primary part. Um, I think the main cause of our symptoms may be because of CSF flow. Because your CSF, like you said, that it goes down and then it comes back up, right? So your CSF will go down and it will come back up, and it basically loops around in the
Mm-hmm.
inside the dura. So
Mm-hmm.
your spinal cord, it's like almost like if you take a bunch of like angel hair pasta and overcook it, and it's kind of got that like mushy texture. That's basically the consistency, and it's very like thin strands of nerve
Mm-hmm.
fibers. And I'm fairly certain that it would be very easy to irritate it. So
Right.
I think, depending if you've got like high pressure or something that can cause it to irritate it to the point where it causes it to feel numb or like a burning or like pressure, things like that. So I think that's something they need to
So
also.
mine is, so when you say that, so think of my spine from the base of my neck down. I have these pinch marks all the
Uh-huh.
way down where my spine is being impeded all the way down. So there's areas throughout my whole spine, but the most one that had the most impediment was the thoracic, and then lumbar spine is apparently pretty jacked up. I mean, they've done two surgeries in my lumbar, and then there were three areas they fixed two. The third one they're kind of watching and thinking, well, if we don't have to, we're not going to mess with that one. but I've had to have the injections. I have the pain now that goes down my left thigh down into my calf, into my toes and back, and I'm like, okay. So, but I've had in 3 years, I had like four major surgeries. And I just can't keep doing this. I can't. There's gotta be a better way.
So, do you know with your spine, did they say anything about like a myelopathy or a spinal stenosis or anything like that?
Spinal
Yeah,
stenosis, for
spinal
sure.
stenosis.
Yeah, for sure. But they wouldn't say that my whole spine is related to Chiari. They just said my upper spine was related
Well,
to
it
Chiari.
it just yeah, yes and no. Like just because you have something doesn't mean it's going to be related. But like spinal
Mhm.
stenosis is considered a comorbidity. So it's something that's usually like it's seen together. So it could be related or not. It really just depends, but it is something that's commonly like seen together.
Okay. That's not great news, but all right.
I mean, it's not great, but it's also not terrible.
Yeah,
Like
right.
it's more of just having like a better understanding of things. And I think because what I was told by the doctor who had diagnosed me was that in the medical textbooks where they teach about Chiari malformation, it's like a 2 paragraph section and then that's it. That's in my
I believe
opinion,
it.
that's it. Because there's not a lot known, and I think the more people are speaking out about it, I think there's going to be a lot more discovered, and I think
That's like
that'll.
I think the issues I have with my eyes, like I have 5 retinal tears.
Mhm.
Where did that come from? And I strongly believe that that's part of my Chiari condition too. Um, like the blurriness is part of my Chiari condition too. Um, I don't know. I just feel like it's all kind of connected. Uh, so and the more that I find out, and the more things that I pick up about myself, it's like, man, okay, I didn't have this before. I didn't have this. I'm like done. There are days when I'm like, I'm just done. I don't want to talk to anybody who has Chiari. I don't care. I don't want to go on any chats because all you hear about is the pain and the issues and what they're not dealing with. And I'm so sick of this. And I'm like, I want positivity. Can
Yeah,
someone
yeah,
tell me something positive of what's happening with them and how they're doing? I don't want to hear about, and I'm not being mean because I'm in that same boat, but I don't really want to hear about you being in bed all day in pain.
yeah, yeah. Because that's just as depressing as being in bed in pain. And
Right. So, yeah.
I feel like there's more negativity than positivity
Right.
for
And then if you try
people.
to say something positive, oh, you don't understand. And I do understand. I'm in the
Yeah,
same boat as you,
yeah.
but I can't focus on that part because I was taking this class. My primary doctor and my pain doctor kind of like, yeah, you're gonna take this class. And what it was is it's called restorative, it's dealing with pain, like chronic pain and how we
Right.
deal with it in our
So it's
minds.
like a
And it
pain
had,
management course or something.
yeah, yeah. But it what I found interesting, it had a relaxation clinician, it had an OT, a PT, a psychologist that you saw for every day for an hour a day.
Mhm.
And each person dealt with you on that different level. And then you had a group session where you talked about whatever's going on. They show these amazing lectures and videos on where our pain comes from, and that our pain is real, even though other people don't believe it. Our pain is real to us because we know our pain and it needs to be addressed. So, in that, I was asking a lot of questions. I was like, so for instance, my balance doesn't come from my ears, it comes from my cerebellum. How do we deal with that? How can I fix that? What can you tell me as this clinician to say that this is what needs to be done? And it was just interesting how they were saying that your brain truly reacts to what you put out there,
Hmm.
right? So if you're constantly saying, I mean, I used to lay in the bed literally and assess my body from head to toe and figure out what hurts the most. And I'd be like, damn it, I'm sick of it. And my body would respond in that way. It would give me more pain. And then I tried, just I'm gonna try this and see what they're talking about. I was very skeptical. See, I'm saying, see that? Did you see that? Skeptical. I was like, okay. So when I laid there and I assessed, and I was like, okay, I understand I'm hurting today, but it's not going to be every day or all day. And slowly, when I turned my mindset around, slowly my pain went from I was averaging on a daily, my pain would be between a 6, 7, and 8 all the time, to the point where if you didn't know, you couldn't tell because it was just always there. Now I can say my pain level is down to a 3,
Hmm.
which is highly functional for me. And um, I'm learning how to recognize when my pain hits because I've always been that person. I could push it a little further. Oh, I'm doing something. Oh, I can do it a little bit longer. I could do, and the next thing I know, we're 4 hours into it. I haven't got up and moved. I haven't done anything. When I try to stand, my body is stiff. I can't stand.
Hmm.
It teaches you how to do that. And fortunately, the other two women who were in the class with me, we were all new to chronic pain. So we didn't know, we weren't, 15 years into it where you have all the medication and that's all you rely on and don't believe in anything else. I'm not saying everybody's like that, but I'm just saying that could be because they were telling us there were people who have come to them in that manner and didn't want to do it because they had lost hope.
Right.
So,
And like the way that pain medication works is it basically blocks the pain receptors in your brain. So it's
right.
like if you're having something that's going on that isn't connected to like a brain like a receptor in there, I mean, pain medication isn't really going to help you.
Mm-mm. And then I couldn't do anything. I couldn't drive. I couldn't do anything that I normally would do
Right.
because I didn't trust myself on that. I could fall asleep. I could, I didn't. I said, I can't function like this on this medication. So I
Right.
learned, just push through the pain, you know, instead of medicating. I just learned how to push through the pain. And if it got so bad when I got home or from whatever I was doing, then I would take something while I was home and safe, but not while I was out and about. So it is, I just find that Chiari is a very complicated, layered condition.
I've heard it called the great imitator
Oh
because
yeah.
there's what 300 different associated like symptoms with it. Like there's a lot. So it's one of those things where it's like, is it related? Is it not? Like you really, unless they do full on research on it, they're not gonna find out. They don't have the data there to figure out whether or not, you know.
But this isn't something that's new. I mean, this is something that's been around a while, a long time, you know?
Right, but
So,
like if it, just because you have it doesn't like if you go to a surgeon that's not doing research, that data's lost. That data's
right.
gone. If it's not going into a database, they can't really do anything with it. They can't, while it's considered rare, it is actually fairly common. The only difference is it's considered rare because there's no data collection. So
Hmm.
they
I can
don't
see that.
have it and they don't compile it, they can't really do anything with it. And I think that's one of the reasons why the research centers that we have are very, very important.
What about the Chiari Institute in Barcelona?
I personally don't know much about them. I've heard they're very, very good though.
That's what I've heard too. I've heard that they don't even do that many decompression surgeries. They have an alternative to it. And I was like, wow. Hmm.
Yeah, I
So
I personally I'm being seen at Johns Hopkins and I've been very impressed by them. Very impressed
yeah,
by them.
I've heard they're really good too. We don't have a Johns here.
I know. I live in Nevada, so I flew out there. I
Yeah.
got to the point where
Yeah.
things were getting so bad. I was like, forget it. They could take all my money. I don't care. Like this is more
Yeah.
important.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Yeah. Okay. That's an idea. I didn't know there was one that close because I'm in Seattle. I
Yeah.
was thinking they're all on the
When
East Coast.
when we finish, I'll see if I can find where I have that information and I'll send it to you.
Okay.
Uh, let's see. After your surgery, were there any complications?
Other than not having the medication,
Yeah.
no.
So like did you end up developing any like spinal leaks or anything like that?
Thank
No.
God,
So it
no.
was fairly
Yeah.
uncomplicated. Aside
So
from
what
like the tightness and whatnot that you had when they were going in.
you know, that's interesting because mine didn't feel that tight. So what he did was when I look at other people's incisions, he did a lot of people have the staples.
Uh-huh.
I didn't have the staples. He did stitches and then he put the surgical glue.
Oh, that's interesting.
So I had a hell of a mass of surgical glue on the back of my head. And so I didn't have the stiffness or the tightness or anything. I could lay down on my pillow and everything and it didn't hurt. Um, no, I didn't have that. I only had the couple of times after the surgery where I had the immense pain from not having the meds, but after that, truthfully, I was up and about. And like 2 weeks later, I was walking outside trying to build my strength up. And yeah, I was doing a lot. I wasn't driving, but I was definitely able to take care of myself and cook and, all that kind of stuff. Be careful and all that. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think part of that comes down to like the techniques that are used by the
Yeah.
different surgeons. So that's something they might want to look into as well.
I
Um,
can tell where I can feel where back of my skull ends though.
mhm.
Yeah. Before it was more rounded. Now it's a definite sharp. So it goes like really sharp to the base of
Right,
my neck.
right. So you can just kind of feel where it stops.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I can feel that. Yeah. So that feels weird. I feel like the back of my head is a little shaped differently, like up in
Mhm.
here too, from where they took it. Like I said, I can feel the indent where they literally took out the derma. It's interesting. I just like, oh, okay. Yeah.
So when you have your flare-ups, your like drop episodes and things like that, having the spinal stenosis and whatnot, can you differentiate between a Chiari flare-up and like say with your comorbidities that you have going
I
on?
can. I can. Um, and like I said, sometimes they merge together, which is
Right.
not that often. What I notice when they merge together is when I've really been doing too much, you know. But I can tell when it's a Chiari headache, like I have become way more sensitive to the bariatric pressure
Hmm.
than I was before. So when the weather changes, like if it's been sunny and the clouds come in and I can feel the heavy rain come in, I will wake up with a really bad headache. And it'll be like on the base of my head and it's all around here. And I have to kind of wear my ice cap because it hurts my head.
Hmm.
Other times, my spinal stenosis flares up when I've been sitting too long or walking too long or just doing something that puts a lot of strain on my back. I notice like if I like to go on walks, but if I go on long walks and I come home, man, my lower back is screaming at. And I don't know if that's because the way my gait is now, the way I'm walking now, that could be. And I find I have to constantly remind myself to walk up straight because
Hmm.
I find it easier to walk leaned over because I don't feel the pain. But if I
Right.
walk up straight, it hurts more, but I know walking up straight is better for me than walking hunched over.
Right. And I think part of that would be because like when you're kind of hunched over, it stretches out the vertebrae. So there's
Yeah,
less pressure on there.
right,
So
right.
that could also, I found that like those like the icy hot patches, those help
Oh,
really well.
yeah.
I
I
love them.
live on salon pause patches. I just had two
Yep.
of them on me last
Those things, wow, chef's
night.
kiss. Whoever invented those, good
I
job.
know. Girl, you have no idea. I go to work. I used to go to work smelling like. Vicks or whatever it is, because they would
I
be all over.
keep
Like,
like I keep like one of the icy hot rollers at work, and like the
oh
guys at work
man.
be like, "You good?" I'm just like, rubbing it into like my neck and stuff. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Question, do you ever get those neck crunches where you turn your head and just feels like your bones are just
Yes.
do you ever
Yes,
get
I
that?
do. Yes, I do. I
Okay.
know they had done they did see one on me as well. And it's almost I don't know how to describe it. It's
It's like your head's gonna crunch
like
off.
you ever hear like metal on metal grinding?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
that, but like inside and it's not like screaming,
Yeah.
but yeah.
Exactly. Yes. They told me that was normal. Don't worry about it.
I think it's normal for what we have.
Yeah. They said, oh, it's
I
normal.
don't,
Don't worry about it. I was like, what? Ah, okay. Yeah. There, it's just like, it just feels like, sounds like it's just grinding when I'm turning my head and it's just grinding.
yeah, yeah. And it's a very odd sensation and an odd feeling. So
Yeah.
I think if you don't have it, you don't really get
Yeah.
it. So
Hmm.
and I find it's those little things that's difficult to describe to like the doctors, so
Hmm.
that when we do describe it, we sound a little like crazy. A little.
Yeah. Yeah. I tried to, and they was looking at me like, oh, okay. Well, that's normal. Okay. Yeah.
I know you had mentioned that you have sons. Did either of them go through like a screening process to see if they also have it? No.
No, because I didn't even know what it was then. Like my son, my youngest son, he has severe migraines, And I told him, I said, well, maybe you might want to go get checked out because, this is what I have. And he's like, Mom, I'm not ever going to do that. I think he didn't want to because if he found out that he had that and the only cure or, thing would be for brain surgery, he just was never going to do that. So that
It's
would be why.
yeah, I think it's a tough situation because like when you see yourself as healthy, right? And then you find out you have something like this, your
Yeah,
entire view on life and the world
it
just
does.
shifts. And
It does.
it's almost as if like a feeling of, oh my God, this is my identity now. I'm the sick person now. I'm ill. How
Oh
am I
my
going to
God.
be
You
perceived in life and things like that? And I think there's that social aspect to it as well that contributes to the anxiety and the depression and things like that.
I had got to a point where if people were asking me, "How are you doing?" and I just would say fine. Because, you just don't want to talk about all the stuff that's going on.
Right.
This is me, or now my back's bothering me, or now this is because people look at you like, oh my gosh, something's always happening with you.
Right.
And that doesn't feel good to have someone say that to you. It
Right.
just
And it's
it doesn't. So I
especially the
just started
look that you
thinking,
get. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah,
I think one of the things that people hate the most is they may not say it, but they give this look of like pity, this look of pity.
yeah.
And I think part
Let
of
them
that
talk about
is
it.
because they don't necessarily know how to deal with it.
Right. My family, like I remember I had to go to the ER after I had my thoracic surgery because I couldn't breathe. I woke up out of in the recovery room. The first thing I said was, I can't breathe. It hurts. And they were like, oh, okay. And sent me home. Sent me home. I was having so much chest pain that I could not breathe well. I remember calling the on-call nurse and I was explaining to her, just like we're talking, I said, I'm having some chest pain and it hurts when I talk and it hurts when I breathe. And she's like, oh my gosh, you need to go to I said, no, I don't think I need to go to ER. I think I just need to talk to you and see what's happening. I was just like out of my mind, stupid. Why would you say something like that? Any other person would be like, yeah, I need to go to ER. What's happening? But
Yeah.
I had gotten so used to all of it. And I was at home like that for 4 days, 4 days of not being able to breathe. Then when I finally did go to the ER and they told me that where they did the incision fluid had built up in that area and was causing all that pain.
Right.
And they had to drain it. I was like, but I had gotten so used to pain and how this condition is and what's affected and something else is wrong. Why am I going to talk about it? Just deal with it. That I just sat at home for 4 days in pain like that. Excruciating. I could not live. When I tell you I couldn't get out of bed to move, if I laughed, it hurt. That's how
Yeah.
bad it hurt. Yeah. And I was like, damn, this cannot be my life. This right here cannot be my life.
Right.
This is too much. It was just too much. So yeah, I am I don't wish this on anybody, because it's like you said, it masks itself in so many different things. And if you're not a person who's skilled in it and knows what to look for, then you will assume, oh, it's vertigo, oh, it's migraines, oh, you're just having this, oh, you're just having that, and blow it off as that, you know?
I think as humans and not as like doctors, but as people in general, I think we're hardwired to look for the easy. Be
Hmm.
I mean, easy's easy. Difficult, that's going to take a lot of work. And I don't think a lot of people are up to the task of diving into that.
Well,
So,
epilepsy started the same way.
yep.
No one knew what it was and didn't understand it, but they knew something was wrong. And then they got the money funded, and here we are today, you
Right. So
know?
it's the same process. It really is like
Right.
when they don't know, you've got those little like pockets of surgeons that are looking into it, like the different research facilities and stuff around the not only the states, but there's some in Canada, there's the one in Barcelona, there's some in Turkey. Yeah, there's
Well,
definitely that.
do they talk to each other? I mean, is there a
They do.
network
They do.
amongst them?
They do.
Okay.
Yeah. It's interesting because I don't know how interconnected they actually are, but I do know that um they do communicate with that, and I'm sure they share research, at least to an extent, because at some point, like it's gonna be their center's research, so that's almost like I don't know, like a prized, coveted thing. Like you keep your stuff to
Yeah.
yourself until you can publish it. But I
Yeah.
know with the different libraries and whatnot, the research trials and whatnot is definitely shared. Like even as patients, you can go in and you can read about the different trials and whatnot, and you can read the research that's being done. Um,
Oh, okay.
you may not have access to the stuff that's currently ongoing, but the trials that have been finished, you can definitely read into that. And
How do you how do you find out about what if you want to be a part of the research trial? How do you even get in that?
so that's where you contact the different research centers, like John Hopkins, there's one in Colorado. There's one, Duke University is starting one up soon. I've only seen one or two articles about it, but um, that a surgeon, I think it's I want to say Dr. Grant. He was out at Stanford for a while, and I believe he's the one that's starting the one out at Duke. So that's
Mm.
down in North Carolina, though. So I know you're on the West Coast. So if you're going for where you want to do like be a part of a trial where they're actually going to do treatment and whatnot, not just collect data and whatnot, you would want to go to one of the three that are in the United States or like Barcelona, Turkey. I think there's one down in like Mexico. I'm not sure on that one though. Um,
Mm.
yeah, it took me couple of months to find out all that information and where they're at. Took a little while because it seems like it's difficult to dig for.
That don't
So,
make sense. That
and
don't make
I
any
think
sense.
that's also because there's not a lot of like the advocacy's not there. So while there's some like you've got Bobby Joe and CSF doing their research and their interviews and whatnot, um, they're kind of, it's small. It's that small community. So it's hard
Mm-hmm.
to find unless you're like digging. So,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I believe that.
and
Yeah.
I know they have different like criteria for the different trials. So it's just a matter of finding one where you fit the criteria for. I know um, the ones where they're doing the genetic testing, there's a couple of them where you just contact them. You don't even have to be a patient. They'll do genetic testing for you. And yeah,
Oh, okay. That would be nice to know. Yeah, because I think back that my siblings and my mom, even my dad, I don't ever recall them having headaches.
right,
I really, or any vertigo issues or anything like that. Yeah, so it's interesting to see that these things that I have that are supposedly rare, that I'm the only one that has them, you know.
right. Especially if it's supposed to be a genetic thing. Um,
Right.
but like I said earlier, I personally believe that Chiari is for the vast majority a secondary, like an acquired one,
Yeah.
because the more people that I've like, yeah, I've met a few that they were born with it, but the vast majority, they're like, I was perfectly healthy until I had this happen to me. A lot of people will have issues where like they got into a car accident. I talked to one lady that she was, when she went into labor because of how much she was pushing, it had caused it. And after that, that's when she found out she had a Chiari. Like
Mm-hmm.
it's the little things like that that kind of like add up.
Mm-hmm. No, I don't remember anything like that because when I mean, I was in labor with my first child 26 hours.
Right. So
So
it's
that
like,
would have caused, and I don't recall having any type of headache, with pushing. I don't remember any of that. So that's what I'm saying. It could be secondary because, like you say, I went through my whole life. 57, all of a sudden, I get diagnosed and when I'm 56, and then they did the surgery at 57, and I'm like, huh, where did this come from?
right.
I've never, I mean, headaches. And I remember the only thing that they told me was a telltale was the pressure when trying to go to the bathroom. And I've always had that. I remember that for sure. But I don't remember like had headaches, but I didn't ever associate it to anything else but just headaches,
Right. And with like there's multiple kinds of hydrocephalus, right? And when you get older, it's fairly common to have it develop. Um, with that, if there's so much pressure on your brain, it can cause it to herniate and look like Chiari. If you have a CSF leak, it can cause it to pull down the tonsils and herniate and look like Chiari. Um, just because it's easy to see on there. I mean, one and done.
Mm-hmm. Instead of let's go further and see what else this could be.
Right. And I think that
Yeah.
also is the general population of surgeons and neurologists and stuff. That's not, I don't think it's taught as much as it should be.
So we as patients, we as people who have Chiari, how can we, because I've been thinking about this, how can we get the surgeons and the neurologists to say, hey, let's look a little bit further than the telltale sign of the tonsils being down.
Well, first, I think that that starts with advocacy, getting it out there and pushing for the research. If the research isn't there, they're not really going to know what to do. They can't like effectively sit there and say definitively, yes, this is the signs of an acquired versus a congenital, or this is definitely something other than what we're thinking it is. If they don't have the knowledge there to back it, they can't really do anything with it. I think self advocacy, because if nobody's going to advocate for you, you have to advocate for you. If that
Mm-hmm.
means firing a doctor to go and find a new doctor, that's what you got to do. I've been through quite a few neurologists. The first one that I had, she was absolutely wonderful, but she ended up leaving the hospital that I was at, that I was being seen at. And the one after that, he tried to tell me that it was just depression and tried to put me on like
Oh
antidepressants.
my gosh. Oh
So
my God.
it's one of those things. At that point, I was like, no, I'm not going to waste my time here because my life is worth more than what I am paying those doctors.
Right.
So, you just have to sit there and think, what am I willing to do to give myself the best life that I can? So
Right.
if that means firing doctors and finding other ones, you fire doctors and you find other ones. If it means
Well,
keeping the ones that you have, you keep the ones that you have. It all just
well, that's
depends
why I
on
don't
the
have one.
right. It's like you had mentioned the people that get MRIs and whatnot every year. I have had an MRI every year since the year that I was diagnosed, right? That was because I knew something was wrong within myself because I was like, this isn't normal. And I pushed them. I told them, I said, you need to do this. Like they can't, well, yes, a doctor can deny,
Hmm.
right? They can say, no, I don't think that that's what you're going to do. You sit there and you tell them, if you're going to deny this, you better put it in my medical records why you're denying this. Because they need to have their reasoning to the point that you can understand it. And if it
Hmm.
does not line up to what you're feeling on the inside, you need to go and find somebody that will. And then you have that record down the road that, look, they denied it because they said I didn't need it because of this, this, and this. Come to find out, I needed it because this, and this. So it's
Mm.
one of those things where you just have to be almost tenacious, very tenacious about it. And it's hard to do when you go in there, you're looking at these doctors. They went to school for this. This is what they do. This is their life, their job. You put an immense amount of trust in them.
Hmm.
And if those doctors break that trust, I mean, it's like the Hippocratic Oath isn't required. Like if they break the Hippocratic Oath, they really can't do anything about it unless they're breaking straight up ethics and everything. Um,
Hmm.
a lot of medical schools, there's few like John Hopkins, Harvard, a few other ones that like those doctors as a reminder they take that oath. Um, and there are those medical schools that they do not require that. And that is, you have to find a doctor who is ethical and they have a lot of integrity, a
Hmm.
lot of integrity. Because if you're going to fight for you, you need to find one that's going to fight just as hard or harder.
Right. I agree with you there.
And
Yeah.
I think that's the difficult part. That is a very difficult part of it. And it's
Because I feel like I'm past the neurosurgeon part. I think I am at the neurologist part where I need to have a neurologist who works with me, who understands Chiari, and we can work together on it because I feel like it's just affecting me in so many other ways. My eyes, the tingling in my hands, the pain that shoots down my legs and come back up, my back, my feet. It's affecting all of that. Whereas before, when I first the path that led me to Chiari was I was having plantar fasciitis. I thought I was having that. And I had these nodules growing and I'm like, well, what is this? And when I went to a podiatrist and he told me about it, what it was. And he said, no, it's not plantar fasciitis, it's plantar mitosis and it's rare and only Asian and white people get it. I'm like, what the fuck? What are you talking about?
you're like, I am neither
Like,
Asian or white. Like, what do you mean?
and he's like Asian and white. He said, and if it's white, it's usually white men, but usually you'll see a lot of it in Asian women. I'm like, oh my God, what is happening? So I went from there to getting that done, and then I had all of this was happening at the same time. my feet,
Hmm.
every part of my body was on fire. And they were trying to figure out which one to put out first, you know, because everything was happening. And so they were like, okay, we'll do the brain, we'll do the back. And then my podiatrist was like, well, I went to two different podiatrists and I ended up going to two different neurosurgeons because the first one I went to had no clue what Chiari was, had just read about it in a book, like you said, had never done a surgery, had no, I researched these doctors online, had no nothing online. And when he wanted to do the duroplasty, he wanted to use a cadaver. I said, why would you use a cadaver when you can take it from me where my body won't reject it? Oh,
Hmm.
well, we're not worried about that. I said, oh no, we're not going to see this guy. He was clueless. So I'm not going to have anybody just go into my head and do something and I'd end up coming back and have a big problem
Yeah,
here.
that's where the trust needs to come in. Um, part there's the so Crazy by Chiari has two parts, right? There's the I have a voice part, which is those like us who are going through it. And then there is the I'm listening part. So eventually down the road, I'll be doing interviews with surgeons, hopefully the ones that are doing the research,
That
to
would be
let people
amazing.
know that there are doctors out there that are trying. They care. They're they may be difficult to get in to see. They may be, hard to find, but they're there. And I think that's one of the things that we really need is we need to see that, you know, there are those doctors that are fighting as hard as we are. And I think
Mm-hmm.
that's also very, very important because I know from my experience, it's hard to find one that listens. It's very
Oh
hard to
my,
find one that listens.
yeah. And so when first thing I asked them is, are you familiar with Chiari malformation type 1?
Hmm.
And I get either a deer in headlights or, oh yeah, I remember I took it in medical school, and they don't, when they say that to me, it's like, yeah, that was just like you said, a paragraph that you went over, talked about for a half hour in class and moved on. So I'm like, if you don't have any background in it, then I don't need to talk to you because you're not going to help me, you know? You're not going to help me. And I need a professional who knows what my symptoms are, who understands where I'm coming from, and is willing to work with me through this.
Right.
I don't need someone that I have to educate every moment of the day.
Right.
I just don't feel like I have that time.
Yeah, because I mean, there's a lot of times where the patients go in there and they're more knowledgeable on it than the doctors.
Right. Right.
Because while yes, doctors go to school for what, sometimes 16, 17, 18, 19, 20 years, right? A very, very long time. That's all they're studying. Um, we also spend a lot of time researching and studying. I personally have put in very long hours, many, many days researching and studying this. And
Hmm.
while we don't have degrees, it doesn't mean that we don't have some sort of
Hmm.
knowledge. And I
Hmm.
think that's also important. Like we need to educate ourselves, um, so that one, when you go into your doctor's office and they're explaining things, you can understand it. Like if you
Hmm.
have your own education on a subject, like it'll be easier to, realize the questions that you need to ask and realize like whether or not this doctor may or may not have the appropriate amount of knowledge that you're looking for. Uh,
Hmm.
there are a lot out there. They're just hard to find. They're just hard to find and hard to get into. And I think
Well, hopefully your platform will have a connection with the good doctors and the research centers that
I
people
I
can
hope
go
so.
to.
Right now, everything's in its infancy.
Yeah,
We'll see how it goes. We'll just keep going
right,
until we can't, and then just go a little bit more.
right, right,
That's
right.
really all we can hope for. Um, so we've talked about the bad days, right? What about the good days? There may be few and far between, but there's got to be some good days.
So my good days are this. I'm an artist, and I was afraid that when I came out of the surgery, I wouldn't have the I guess, the dexterity and the wherewithal to still create my art. So one of the pieces that I did after surgery, it took me a long time because normally I was able to do it pretty fast. This one took me, gosh, almost a month to do. Was a big, huge wall piece that I did, and I call it my therapy piece because in my days of pain, I would go in there and just work, and it would just kind of distract me.
Right.
So I do a lot of my art because now, and I've noticed, I should say this, I noticed that after the surgery, I used to work in stained glass, abstract stained glass, pretty much only. After the surgery, oh my gosh, I'm weaving, I'm doing felting. I'm just branching out into different forms of art that I never would have thought about doing. Never.
Right.
It's like my mind goes, okay, I see it and I try it and I can do it. Whereas before I was like, nah, that looks kind of, but now it's like it opened up, it's hard to explain. It just opened up another side of my brain where I'm able to create much better than I did before.
Right. Right. I would say after my surgery, it was like it probably lasted like 3 to 6 months at the most, but it was like this mental clarity. Like um it was almost like things like my brain was working so much better. And I think that
Oh,
that ties into the CSF because I've heard it described as it's like the food for your brain. Um,
mm-hmm,
and so it's like when your brain's not getting the nutrition that it needs because of a blockage, I mean, you're going to have deficits. Like
mm-hmm,
dementia, MS, things like that. There's blockages caused by like lesions and things like that. It's the same reason why people with brain tumors have, well, brain tumors are more complex. You know, they've got pressure on certain areas that they shouldn't have and whatnot. But it's definitely if the food's not getting where it needs to go and you're not able to sustain those functions, I mean,
mm-hmm.
that's going to go out the window. And then the moment that you have like all this food, oh my God, I have so much energy. Everything's working so great. It's the
Yeah,
same thing.
that's how
Like,
it was. And that's how it is for the most part still. For the most part, I'm still doing that. And it makes me feel good. I can tell though when I'm sluggish or just feeling out of it, just feeling out of it. Something's maybe that's not because I didn't know. I had a friend tell me when I first found out about this and was first having surgery that your CSF will change all the time. There are times when you'll have full flow, and then there'll be times when it's low. And she said, you'll know because you'll feel sluggish and you just won't feel right. And I was like, really? My thought was once they freed up the space that it was always free. And she says, no, that's not true. That's not true. And I was like, oh. So that was a learning curve for me because I didn't know that you could still have it go slower and normal pace and slower
I
pace.
I'm not too knowledgeable on the CSF yet. I am doing my own research on that. I know that it takes probably like 3 to 6 hours or something for your brain to replenish its own CSF. Um,
Mm-hmm.
if your brain isn't producing enough or it's producing too much, like, or even if it's not absorbing it correctly or fast enough, or if it's doing it too fast, things like that, it can all affect your cognizance and your memories and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's something hopefully that they're looking into. And
Yeah.
that would be under like neurosurgeons in general, because that's a very important, vital part of our bodies and our
Mm-hmm.
internal like ecosystems and whatnot. And I think neurosurgery has only been around for about 100 and something years.
Mm.
It was actually Johns Hopkins is considered the birthplace of neurosurgery. So
Really?
yeah, the neuroscience in general is very, very young. So there's a lot for them to understand. Like bones, you look at your bones and everything, your muscles, there's only so much information that they can gather on that to the point where they're like, yeah, we it's fairly easy to diagnose this and this and this. Um, and they've had centuries of working on that. Sure, there's recorded history of back in thousands of years ago where they would do treatments for headaches where they would drill holes. It may not
Oh
have been the
yeah,
proper
yeah,
thing, but I mean, they do that still. Like, look at us. They gave us the, you know,
yeah. A bigger
compression. Well,
space.
they had the right idea.
We have a big old hole in the back of our head.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So hopefully there's a lot of research going into it, but we have to just kind of keep in mind that it's really in its infancy. I mean, well, yeah, the way we see it, they've had it our entire lives, right? Brain surgery's been a
Right.
thing for our entire lives. So in like relative like view, we would think, well, it should be farther along, but really it is in baby steps right now. And
Yeah.
I think doing things where we're trying to aid in the data or whatnot, I think that's going to, if it we may not see it in our lifetime, hopefully people down future generations, we can say that we helped contribute to that. I
Do
think
you
that's
think pediatric Chiari is further along than adult Chiari research? I feel like it
I
is.
do. I do. I do because I feel like they see it more often.
Yeah. Yeah, I
Because
agree.
once you grow up, like as adults, I don't know about you, but I don't particularly like going to doctors. I haven't had the best
No.
experiences. So as adults, we generally make the decision, we're just going to push through it. We're just going to try to make it through it. I don't have the
That's
time, I don't
true.
have the insurance, I don't have
Yeah,
the
yeah,
resources. I don't have the mental capacity to deal with this. So
yeah.
I think as parents, we see our kids are having issues, we go, oh, that's not right, they need to go to the doctor. Our priority when people have kids, right, the priority shifts, so we're
Mhm.
focused less on us and all on them.
Oh yeah, for sure.
It's a parent's duty and role and like their responsibility to make sure their child grows up happy, healthy, you know well
For
educated, things like that. So I feel like pediatric, they see it more because the parents go, that's not right, I need to take care of my baby.
hmm
So I
hmm
think that's one reason why it's farther along. Um, and I feel like people are more sympathetic to children than they are to full grown adults.
Yeah, I agree with you there. Yeah. Like you should be able to handle that pain.
It's like grow up, deal with it, right?
Yeah, yeah, pretty much. Gosh, I was gonna mention something. Totally slipped my head. What do you do as far as the restrictions? I mean, like they tell you you can't go on roller coasters, you shouldn't go to a chiropractor dealing with your neck. Um, things like that. I noticed, so I bought one of those vibration plates because it's supposed to clear out your lymph nodes.
Uh-huh.
And I kid you not, I went on that thing and my neck and my head started hurting almost instantly. And I was like, when it happened, before it was the same time when the weather changed. So I was getting a headache from that, and then I went on that. So I was like, was it the weather change or just this machine? So I went on it the next day, and I was like, it hurt a little bit, but not as bad. And then I missed a day and I didn't have it. I said, well, damn, maybe it's that. And I didn't think that that type of vibration, but I did feel it like in my head, especially in my neck, in my lower neck. I was like, wow, I wonder that vibration was hurting my head, my skull. So I don't know, maybe, because they say there's certain things you cannot do to so you can protect your brain.
I've heard mixed things on that.
Okay.
Um, like the contact sports, I've heard surgeons say, well, most or many can go on to do it. I really think it has to do with understanding what your condition is and understanding how things can affect it. So, take the roller coaster, for example, right? We have giant holes in the back of our head
Mm-hmm.
where your brain is essentially hanging down. And you take that force, right? And it's going to put pressure on it, just that G force and whatnot. It's going to do that. I mean, if you think about it, it's probably a high likelihood that if you were to do that, it could make it worse or, you know,
Oh
make things.
yeah, only thing that's protecting it is the muscle in the back of your neck, you
Hmm.
know? That's it. There's
Yeah.
really nothing
So I
nothing to
think
do.
I think that comes with like understanding limitations because nobody really wants to admit it, but we have limitations now.
Yeah. Oh yeah,
And
for sure.
it's I know like as a kid I liked roller coasters, sure, but I mean I don't really have the want to go on one, you know.
No. No. Mm-mm.
Things
Mm-mm.
like trampolines. I've heard people say that trampolines can make it worse, but yeah, sure, it possibly could, but I don't think there's enough force for it to.
No. That's like
I mean,
people
I'm
say
not
when they
really,
cough. When they
I'm not a
cough and
doctor, so I can't say, but
Mhm.
at the same time, you just have to understand like cause and effect, right? So I have this. If I decide to do this, what will happen? You just kind of
Mhm.
got to like think that through. Is it worth taking the chance? And
No.
if it's not, do it. If you think like I think if I want to go out, my last thing in this world, maybe I'll go bungee jumping or something. I don't know.
No. That's a definite no. I don't
You
know. I was just like I was reading one of the posts, the group post. Oh, and when I cough, I get this real bad headache, and I'm like, wow, that never happens to me. Thank God. You know, it's just like the very simple things in life really trigger their Chiari, and I'm like, fortunately, I don't have that. But then I didn't have any other complications per se with my Chiari other than the COVID, and I didn't have any leakage. I didn't have any of that. So I
well,
don't
you
know.
did say that you had that fluid buildup that they had to drain. That would be considered
That
a
was in my chest though.
what was that?
That was in my chest.
I think that could still be considered a complication because I
Mm.
mean you're going into surgery, right? And if you didn't have it before, like
Yeah, I didn't have
gotta
that
cause
before.
something, whether it's like your body's draining too much, like your abdomen and your chest area will absorb things better than like the back of your head or something like that. So it could be. I think it might like I would
They
consider it a
said
complication.
it wasn't. They were quick to say it wasn't. Oh no, this cannot be. It has to be from this and this. And I'm like, yeah, this didn't happen before you guys. This did
I
not.
mean, it may be more like a complication from like the spine surgery or something like that. But I mean, it would be considered probably a complication because how else are you going to develop it? I
Yeah.
mean, if you didn't have it before, but you have it
Yeah.
now, and the only thing that changed was they went into your body and operated. I mean, that's kind
Exactly.
of just logic, you know?
Yeah. So I don't know. I kind of just look at it and go, okay, you have this, you were living with this the rest of your life. You need to find out the details of it. What's the long-term effects of it? What does it do to you as you age? Um, and will this medication be something? I mean, I've even self taken myself off of medication, just said I'm not going to do it anymore. Took it off.
Yeah, I've
And and figured out, I mean, just discovered, because I'm like, it's really not doing anything. So why am I taking this? I stopped taking it. And it was because as soon as I stopped taking it, my headaches were severe. They just came back full force. So I'm like, okay, does this mean I have to take this stuff for the rest of my life? I really don't want to do that, you know? But it's looking like, uh, I don't know. So that when I think about it like that, it gets me kind of sad and depressed. It's like, man, it's changed me in so many ways, you know?
Right, right. And that's where
And,
those limitations come in. And it's hard to accept. It's very difficult to accept. Like
yeah,
the way that I think about it, as you get older, you're going to develop limitations anyways. So I try to I try to convince myself it's just part of the process. Because if you don't, you're going to end up dwelling on it to the point where it's a very sad thing. It's a very sad thing.
unfortunately, I don't do that. I mean, in the early stages, I did.
Yeah.
But now it's like, okay, it's a part of me. And that's where I'm saying that it took me and I think that's when my healing process really started to go into effect because I was very angry with my body, just angry because so much had changed, you know.
Well, it's like they say that there's those steps to grieving, and once you like accept it, you start to heal. It's the same thing. You're grieving your life that you once had,
Yeah.
because it's
Yeah.
it's essentially the death of a happy, healthy life. It
Oh, I
really is.
had to medically retire. I had to
Mhm.
retire from the job, you know,
So everything
and
just it
it
changes.
all just came, it just stopped everything. And I was like, oh my God. I mean, I went from working and doing everything to trying to figure out this next step. And now that I'm like, okay, you're retired, cool, you're retired. I'm good with it now. But before, I was so much in that routine of work.
Yeah,
I actually mourned work. I mourned not being able to go to work. I mourned not being part of that life, you know? And it was, and I wouldn't say I was ever a person who identified myself with my job, but I definitely enjoyed my job,
yeah,
and then to go from, and I felt like Chiari took that from me, and I was just so angry with myself. But it's like, okay, if I would have stayed on that job, I probably would work myself because I would have just kept going and not paid attention because I think my body was trying to tell me things over the
right.
years and I was just ignoring because I got to go to work, I got to take care of my kids, I got to do this, I got bills to pay, and I just kept it going and
That's the
wasn't
thing.
paying
We
attention.
we end up because there's other things that need to be addressed in life, like we just push through. That's
Yeah, yeah, that's it. Until my body was like, no,
Mhm.
you can't do this no more. And it literally stopped me in my tracks. Literally stopped me in my tracks.
Yeah, it's
So
easy to ignore something until it hits you in the face.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And that's what happened. So um I think now I learned how to deal with my bad days. And I so look forward to the good days where I can wake up now. I wake up now and it's like if I'm having minor back pain, that's nothing. That's nothing. I'm good. I can get up and still move around, but I don't think the negative thoughts like I did before. I don't think, oh God, I hate this and I hate my body and I'm so tired of this. I don't, and if I see someone posting something on Facebook that's, like they have this one group that is fuck you Friday and just talk about all the bad stuff. And I read their posts, it's like, my gosh, you know?
Like seeing negativity all the time, it really does put you in that mindset. It
Yeah,
really,
so I
and then
don't. I just
that's a
reading.
mindset that, yeah, it's very difficult to dig out of. It,
Yeah, that's what I mean. I look at that and I just get out of it and go to a different one. Or someone's just like trying to stay positive and focus and like if someone says, "Hey, I tried this herb and it works good for cognitive thinking and it also works for pain." Boy, they get blasted. Ah, don't put that on here. And I'm like, "Gee, they're just trying to give us a little alternative other than to the harsh medications that's really hard on your body." You know?
yeah. I know, like in the main Chiari group that most of us are in, we try to make sure that the only thing that's removed is people that are trying to sell things, or that like snake oil
Oh yeah.
business and whatnot. um, for the good and the bad, people need to see different points of view.
Mm-hmm.
Like you
Mm-hmm.
can't, if you're stuck in a mindset where the only thing that you are listening to is your own point of view, you're never going to grow as a person. You're never going to learn. You're
No,
never going to
you're not
get
gonna heal.
out of that. Yeah.
You're not going to heal because your mind is stuck on that pain and you're
Right.
not going to get past it.
Right.
So,
We're getting close to the end, so we've only got a
yeah,
few more
okay.
questions. Um, why is it important to you to share your story?
Because, oh, I'll say this. I know this for sure. When I found out I had Chiari, I did not see other Black people with Chiari. I found one other person who has it, only one. And I felt very isolated and alone. And I just feel like people need to know that this exists, that
Mhm.
is a real condition. And I just look around now and see people and go, wow, I wonder how many of them have Chiari and are just living with it like I am. Because we don't talk about it, you know? And the
Right.
reason I feel like we don't talk about it, because the first thing if you say, you tell me you have Chiari malformation, oh, what is that? And then you tell them the layman's term, they're like, oh. So they make a joke, oh, your brain's too big for your head. And I'm like,
Yeah, yeah, that's
hmm,
that is a thing where people that don't understand, like a lot of people compensate with humor. A lot of people compensate with humor.
yeah.
So, and it gets hard because like you hear that all day, every day,
Oh,
anytime,
and
like
so
yeah,
so I feel like people need to know. Like here, I really wanted to start a Chiari walk here in Seattle. Apparently, they had one years ago, and then for some reason it fizzled out, and now they have one in Portland. But I feel like if we started one in Seattle, it would be amazing to me if we got our recognition so much that on during Chiari month that the Space Needle could light it up in purple, you know,
that would
in
be.
honor of Chiari. You know, I even called my doctor's office and wished them happy Chiari, and they know what. Oh, it said really? They had no idea. I'm like, you guys, are you for real now? They had no idea. It's that kind of thing. No one knows. I mean, they do the work, but they don't embrace the patients who have it. I feel like if we as patients who had it, we could move through this much better.
Well, it's the same thing as like mental health awareness month and cancer awareness month and
Right.
breast cancer and stuff. It's something that's been so advocated for that everybody knows about it. And I think
Right.
I think we need to try to, as a community, try to get to that point where we push for that advocacy. I mean,
Yeah.
that's what that's what I'm trying
And
to do. But
that's why I liked your website. I was like, wow, this is good. She's not complaining. She's doing the work. She's really researching. She's trying to figure it out. I want to be on that page. I want to be a part of that because I feel like what you're doing is more helpful. You're getting to the nitty-gritty of why we have this
and
and what we can do about it.
I feel like the nitty-gritty needs to be uncomfortable.
Yeah, and
You
it is
know,
uncomfortable.
yeah. Like it's not an easy thing to talk about. It's not an easy like fix or anything like that. Nothing about Chiari is simple. Like
Mm-mm,
I've heard doctors that don't know too much information about it say, "Oh, it's just simple Chiari. It's just a simple
mm-mm,
surgery." You talk to
mm-mm,
any of the specialists and they say it is not simple whatsoever.
mm-mm.
And I think
Were
because
you
go ahead.
were you afraid when you had your surgery?
I was terrified. I mine it was it was very strange the way that I found out because like I had told you earlier, like I thought I was having a stroke. I had coworkers coming up to me telling me that I was speaking in like a British accent. I was like, I don't know what you're talking about. So
Oh
I
my
thought I
God.
was having a stroke or something. And I was at work. I'm like, I don't want to leave work for this. And I'm like, I'll just push through the end of
Isn't
the day.
that crazy?
And then I
Isn't
I
that
go home
crazy?
and I'm like, I should go to the hospital. I'm like, no, I'll just sleep it off. So the next day I woke up and I went to come downstairs to get ready for work and I like fell down my steps because I had no balance. And like I kind of like crawled over to my couch and I sat there. My brother and my sister-in-law were at work. They were working night shift. And I texted the family group chat and I was like, I think I need to go to the ER or something. Like this is going on. And they're like, you need to go now. So I ended up like taking an Uber to the ER. I go in there and I'm like, I'm pretty sure I'm having a stroke right now. Like I don't know what's going on. And I explained it to them. I got back there fairly quickly. because
Mm.
the triage and stuff. And it sounded like a stroke. They went and the doctor that I got, don't like him. Um, he basically said that he straight up said I was overreacting by about complex migraines, is what he said. And like, he literally gave me a form that says complex migraines, how to,
Oh
deal with
my
it.
gosh.
Um, it ended up, he pumped me through like with a bunch of migraine medication. And I had told him, he comes back and how are you feeling? Any better? And I was like, there's no change except for now I'm loopy from the drugs. No change. He got freaked out, ran out of the room, pulled out his cell phone and started making phone calls. Next thing I know, he's coming back in with like a neurologist. And I talked to
Wow.
them for a little bit, and then they like really quickly left. From what the nurses had told me, he had gotten into an argument with a neurosurgeon because the neurosurgeon said she needs an MRI because the neurologist had ordered a CT. Somebody had just happened to see something on the CT, go, that's not right. The neurosurgeon said either you order the MRI or I'm ordering the MRI. So that neurosurgeon ordered it, went in, had that done. I was in there 17 hours. I was in that ER. And he comes back like this little dog with a tail between his legs, sits down, and he goes, uh, we did the MRI. He said, I'm saying you have complex migraines. And I was like, what? And he goes,
Oh
there was
my
this thing on your
gosh.
MRI called, he goes, you have a Chiari malformation. And I was like, what? He goes,
Chiari. Oh
yeah.
dear Lord.
he goes, he goes, he told me, he goes, you have this, but I'm saying you have complex migraines. And I was like, what is this Chiari thing? And he goes, well, basically like your skull's too small and a little bit of your brain's herniated out. And I was like,
Well, that's terrifying.
I asked him, I was like, wouldn't you say that could cause some of my issues if part of my brain is falling out? And he's like, no, no, no. He goes, I'm saying you have complex migraines. He got
He
super quiet
just
and just stared at me like he was trying to intimidate me. And then after a minute, because I'm sitting there like, I'm on drugs right now. I don't know what to do in this situation. I want to ask more questions, but this guy's like adamant that this it can't affect anything. And he goes, I'm discharging you, got up and left. And the nurses come in and
oh
they're super,
my
super quiet. And they're like, you need to go and see a neurologist. You need to get in with your primary care. You need to see a neurologist as soon as possible. And I was like, he said that I have migraines. Like, what are you talking about? And they're like, no, this is very important. And they're like,
They
we
probably
wrote
don't
this.
like him either.
Yeah. Yeah, like I went in and it was very quick. It was like almost 3 months. It was just about 3 months from the day that they diagnosed me to the day that I had decompression surgery. So it
Oh
was
wow.
extremely fast, and I didn't know anything about anything. I had the thought to myself, I need to see a specialist, but at the time I didn't have the funds and I didn't have, you know, I was so wrapped up in, oh my God, my brain's falling out. Like,
Yeah,
what am I gonna
right.
do?
Yeah,
And
that's a
so
crazy feeling, right? It's like, oh my, yeah, yeah.
I I wish I would have listened to my own gut, and I wish I would have gone to like John Hopkins or the place in Colorado or Barcelona or something. I wish at the time I would have said, you know what, forget it. I'm going to do what I need to do. But I went to a surgeon here. She was she was good. Um, Come to find out she took out too much bone and now they have to put a plate in.
Oh,
Um, And then on top of that, I have a pseudomeningocele, which is a CSF leak that's like trapped in that subdural space. So you've got the dura, and then you've got your skin, and it's in
yeah.
that pocket space between there.
Even
So
now you do
what's that?
now? You have that now?
Yeah, yeah.
Oh
I
my
have surgery for
God.
that in March. Yep.
Girl.
Yep.
Wow.
It's been an interesting journey, like to say the least. And I feel like everybody has some. very interesting stories with this. They have some.
See, I wasn't scared. I had myself out so bad that I said, yeah, it's not a tumor. So they're just going to go in and just fix it. And that was the mindset I kept, because every time someone was like, Janelle, you're having brain surgery. I said, I know, but it's not going to be. And they would look at me like I was crazy. But I had to put it in that context because I was so afraid when I found out I was losing my mind. I wasn't sleeping. I was on the Google every moment of the day.
Google Google can be a very beautiful thing, but it can also be a very terrible thing.
Oh my God. I was trying to see, well, what does this surgery entail? Show me. And I saw the surgery. I was like, oh my God. So then I just went to this place in my head where it just said my happy place. And I
Yeah,
said, it's not going to be that bad. I'm just going to go in and do this and I'll be fine. And so I didn't allow myself to be scared because if I did, oh my God, I probably would have canceled my surgery. I
yeah.
probably would have canceled.
I had I it never even crossed my mind to cancel it because I thought to myself, if this is my best chance of survival, that's what I'm gonna do. While I was terrified. Like there's some of the guys that I work with that they could tell you I was freaking out. I was like, like crying at work, and I'm like, I don't know what to do. And they're like, you'll be fine. I'm like, but I'm not gonna be fine. It's
Yeah, yeah. Oh, girl, please. But I wasn't, and then my doctor told me, well, yeah, you have this, but you don't have the other things that you could with your spine. So we're just gonna postpone it. It's no big deal. But then when the neurologist I did have kind of she told me and she looked at my MRI and then they looked at the total spine. It was like, no, she's got to have this. And so they all collaborated, the spine doctor, the neurologist, and the brain, the brain surgeon. They all got together and said, and kind of, I don't know if they convinced him or not, but they came on the same page that this had to be done. And that's when he came back and said, yeah, we're going to do the surgery. I was like, oh, okay. So we don't have to wait. He said, no, I don't think it's a good idea for you to wait because all this other stuff was going on.
right. Right. And then
So
they
that's
need to triage it and they need to put the fires out that they can in order to take care of the little stuff.
right,
So
right. And that's where it was. But no, I don't. But then they told me, they said, no, most people don't even know they have Chiari. The only way you can really tell is if you have an MRI or you do an autopsy. I was
I,
like, wow.
I can see that because if you're asymptomatic, you're not going to know. If you're asymptomatic, you don't necessarily need any surgery. Really, the
Right,
surgery is the
right,
treatment that's for the people that have the symptoms.
right, right,
So I can understand that to a point.
right.
Um, is there anything you would like to say to the doctors who did not help you?
They need to do more research. They need to listen to the patient and they need to acknowledge what the patient is saying is true and they need to have more bedside manner that's positive because I found that the first doctor that I went to was borderline arrogant, you know? We're going to do this and we're going to do that. And without even, he was talking to me like third person, you know, like I didn't know what I was talking about. And I had questions for him that he didn't even know how to answer, you know? When I asked him, I said, why would you use a cadaver for my head when you can use my own dura? Well, why would we need? I said, because I think I would have a better chance of not having a rejection. That's why. And the fact that I said that to him, he kind of looked at me like, what are you talking about? How do you know that? Because I'm researching. This is my head that you're going to go. I said, no, thank you. I'm good. Oh, thank you.
I
Right.
think a lot
That's
of
what I said.
doctors are so used to patients going in there and just being like, yes, you are up on this pedestal because you have gone to school for this, and they're not used to being questioned. So I feel like patients need to ask more questions, really.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, when I read the doctor's notes for the surgeon who did my surgery, he was like, she's a very smart, intelligent woman. She asks very good questions. She knows what she's talking about as far as this goes. And I was like, oh, okay. I appreciate that
That's
because
that's a that's a good feedback. That's something very
yeah,
good. Um,
yeah,
what would you like to say to the doctors who did help you?
thank you. Thank you for saving my life. My primary care doctor was like, I don't know, she was like a resident under, she worked in the clinics. You know how they go to the clinic for 2 years and then they go into their own practice. She was doing that, and I was her first person that she's ever discovered and diagnosed with Chiari. And had she not done that, I don't know where I would have been because I was physically just falling apart. I thought I had dementia.
Mhm.
So I thank you. I had a really, really good surgical team. I had a really good, I mean, everybody worked really well together. They communicated and everybody was on the same page. So I was very grateful because I didn't have that where I had to search and search and search to find someone who believed me.
Mhm.
That first doctor, I just, he was my second opinion, but I had the other doctor in, I had an appointment for him, but he was down the road. So I was just checking this other guy out. But yeah, I said, thank you. I appreciate that. But I really wouldn't be here. They knew their stuff and I appreciate that.
Okay.
Yeah.
I have two more questions. We only have about 10-ish minutes left. What do you hope will come from our interview and the other ones hopefully to come in the future?
That there would be more exposure of Chiari, that people will be more, I don't want to say the word sympathetic because that doesn't sound right.
Understanding? Like
Yes,
understanding? Yeah.
yes. People will be more understanding of it and that we can get more research because with more research, then we can understand that it maybe could be preventable if it's genetic.
Mhm.
You know, maybe we can find that gene in there somewhere that could prevent it, you know, while we are forming our,
Right.
um, but mostly more exposure that and then on top of it that fellow Chiarians can meet each other in person because it is a very isolating condition.
Yeah.
And if you
Yeah.
don't know anybody else who has it and you're just going through it, then you really start to think maybe this is in my head, or you start to feel like you're going a little crazy when you're not, but you don't have anybody else to talk to who understands, the good days and the bad days. You just need to have that person there to say, hey, I get it. I'm there, and not pitying you and not looking at you like you're faking, but someone who really does. So that would be nice if we could. I've always felt like if we could get a reunion, start a reunion every year of Chiarians getting
That's
together.
that's actually eventually down the line. It'll be a very long time from now. But once this project is up and on its feet and everything, I've thought about it and I would like to get like almost like a convention together or something.
Oh, oh, that would be nice. That way we could maybe a convention where we could have some doctors there,
I thought that
some
like if we could get like
researchers there,
yeah.
a
I
little
know
bit.
they Yeah, I know that there are like there's some conventions for like the doctors and like I believe like advocacy programs go and everything and I think I'm not too sure because I haven't dug into it too much, but I think you can like buy a ticket and go.
Oh,
Um and
where are they at?
uh I've seen some down in Florida, I've seen some in like um New York. It just depends
Oh,
on
okay.
the conference.
Okay.
I that's something that I would like to do is get like a convention together where it's like I don't know if we would like sell tickets to help pay for it or try to get funding or something like that and get surgeons and people doing the research to come in and actually speak and have like question and answer segments and things like
That
that
would be
um,
beautiful.
not only to help educate the people, but also for the doctors to realize that when they're doing the research, we're not just a number, a part of this research.
Right.
Like we are people that are suffering. And I think
Yes.
that's something, when you're in like that medical field, you kind of turn your mind off to that because they have the responsibility of operating on like our brains and our hearts and stuff and they can't let the emotion like cloud their judgment but at
Mm-hmm.
the same time, there needs to be an understanding that like these are people that are actually suffering.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
I think that's something trying to close that disconnect between the patients and the doctors is very important.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
think it would be, and then also bring in other people too who can help deal with the chronic pain.
Right.
Because, like we talked about, when you're in that cycle of negativity, then your pain does not get better, it gets worse.
Yeah.
Teaching different ways of how to handle that, that would be amazing and better, I think.
And I think it would be a good thing for it to be like a family friendly thing where
Yeah,
children that have it, they're educated in a way that's fun and they can understand it. Because
right.
I don't think little kids, they're not going to understand. They're just going to
No.
know that they're sick, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
So I think that's also important. Um, Last question. Is there anything that you would like to say to those who may be struggling and going through similar things? People that have the Chiari malformations and or the comorbidities.
What you're experiencing is real. It is not in your head. And if you cannot advocate for yourself, find someone that you trust who can advocate for you, because you matter and you're important. And never give up. We are warriors, and we will always be warriors, and we have to keep this fight up. That's what I'll say.
I most definitely agree with that. I most definitely agree with that. So, all right, we have a few more minutes. So if there's anything else that you would like to say or anything
Thank
else.
you. I like to say thank you for doing this. I believe in what you're doing, and I would love to be a part of it. So whenever you want to reach out and ask a question or whatever, I am right here because I'm retired. And no, for real, I would like to be a part of this, and I need to start researching more because I want to get more exposure here in Seattle too, because I think it's important. You know, it has to be known. This is the little secret that nobody knows about, but a lot of people have,
Mhm.
and it needs to be exposed in a positive way, and
I,
not have the jokes anymore about the big brain and all that. I don't find that funny. I don't. So yeah, we don't need to be ashamed of this. There's no need to be ashamed.
yeah, I will say, I started this, it started as an idea because of like I had told you about the neurologist who had told me, well, you just have to trust him. He went to school, you didn't. I had a conversation with one of their receptionists when I had actually looked at my MRIs and I had found the pseudomeningocele before they did. Um, and I called her and I said, "Hey, you guys need to look into this." And she had said something like, "Are you in medical school?" And I was like, "No, I'm just, doing my research." And she said something where I was like, "Look, if I'm not going to find somebody that's going to advocate for myself, I need to do it. Like, I need to advocate for me." And that turned into, "Oh my God, I'm not the only one going through this." And that turned
Mm-hmm.
into, "I need to see what I can do about it."
Mm-hmm.
And the moment that I decided was after I had my first appointment at John Hopkins. Um, the fact that they listened, I was like, I need to do this for the other people. And
Mm-hmm.
there's this very important person in my life. And one of the things when I was like really struggling every day, he would tell me, "Go on, go do good things. Go do good things."
Mm.
And that's on like I have it on the hoodie and stuff, doing good things.
Oh,
And
nice.
think I think that's also important. We need to remember that even if we can't do a lot, we need to go out and do good things. And I think
Mm-hmm.
the Chiari walks are good things. The Bobby Jones CSF is good things. You know, and even if it's just, talking to people, I'm I'm good at talking. I'm really good at
Mhm.
talking. So, if that can be a good thing, I'm gonna go and do good things. And I think
Mhm.
I'll need to remember that, even if it's just something tiny, be the pebble that causes the wave of change, right?
Right,
So
right.
I think
Yeah.
that's
See, I can talk to you. I'm pretty much of an introvert. I don't like going out and talking to people.
I'm also an introvert. Like I have okay, a lot of people don't believe me when I say it, but I'm actually very introverted. I just
Yeah.
kind of push myself, I push
So
it
I call
like
that
I gotta do this.
introvert with extrovert tendencies.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
yeah, I don't know. I get really stressed out when that, and I think I became more of that way when I became sick. When
Yeah.
I got ill and all this happened, I just got more isolated with myself and wasn't comfortable talking to people. So, because I don't recall, I mean, really being this bad with it. But yeah, it has kind of it changed my life in good ways and bad ways, and I'm still trying to work them out. But it takes time, and that's what Chiari does. It's something that just takes and gives at the same time.
Hmm.
So,
That's
you
very
know,
true.
hmm
I really appreciate you taking the very long 2 hours to speak with me.
no worries. It was great.
I really hope that this will help some people, even
It
if it's
will.
a little bit.
It will. It will. I believe that. It will. For sure. Yeah. In a very positive way. You'll have people calling you and say, "Oh my God, you understand? I didn't know there was other
I
people
was
out
shocked because
there."
I had posted in the group when I was just kind of thinking about it, and I was like, who would be interested in this? And the amount of people that responded and they were like, "Oh my God, we need this. Like we really need this." I thought to myself, this is bigger than just me.
Mm,
Even if I wanted to give up on it, I can't now because this is bigger than just me.
hmm hmm Yeah, girl.
I
You
hope
got to ride this ride. This is it.
I'm just stubborn enough to do it too. So I'm
Yeah, girl.
just
If
stubborn
you
enough
need,
to do it.
like I said, if you need anything, just let me know.
I will definitely.